Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. This is episode 73 of my Let the Women Tell It series. And this is going to be a short one because there's a lot of misinformation going out there around the very, very delinquent disaster relief from the government for the folks down in Carolina, Asheville, and places like that. Thank God that Milton didn't land the way they expected it to, and a whole lot of lives were saved based on the fact that the folks down in Florida made sure people at least was aware that this was going to be a big disaster, and the winds of that hurricane, even as bad as it was, could have been worse. So before we go further, just like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell. So I found this lady, and I saw this last night. So I said, let me go ahead and make another episode of Let the Women Tell It. And she goes through FEMA and how FEMA has the money to do all the things they want based on the 2025 fiscal year in the United States. And that was October 1st. So they have all the money they need. And Mayorkas going on live TV saying he doesn't have money is a lie. So anyway, we're gonna let the women tell it. If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat and stuff like that. But this is gonna be a real short one because I'm gonna let the honey talk about it. When I say honey, that's just my euphemism for women. I'm gonna let her tell you all the details. And it's like 5 minutes or so, and she'll go through it, and I'll just say my little parting things, and I'll be ending it live. So it's not going to be a long one. So here it goes. Let me go ahead and share that with you, and we'll take it from there. Okay.
Why is the Democrats in the mainstream media still lying about the Republicans not passing the bill? So I ran across this clip from MSNBC with 60 House Democrats that are urging Mike Johnson to reconvene Congress to pass a bill for the hurricane relief. Y'all take a look at this.
Meanwhile, in Washington, more than 60 House Democrats have signed on to a letter urging Speaker Mike Johnson to, quote, immediately call Congress back into session to pass more disaster funding. But Johnson so far is not budging.
So I want y'all to pay attention that they said House Democrats. That's going to be important later. Now, Speaker Mike Johnson responded to this claim. Take a look.
Mr. Speaker, was it a mistake to leave and adjourn the Congress for the campaign trail without addressing more disaster relief funding given the circumstances that we now find ourselves in?
Well, the fact is, I think that many people have not fully understood is that we did address it, and we did appropriate $20 billion additional dollars to FEMA with early drawdown authority. So they're sitting on a giant pile of cash, and they haven't used it yet. As of Monday of this week, the Biden administration had only sent out about 1% of those dollars. They'd only distributed 1%. So there's plenty of money to address the immediate needs, and that's what we're counting on them and calling upon them to do.
So the bill that Speaker House Mike Johnson is referring to is the appropriated bill, which funding is allocated to each department for each fiscal year. So in this case, the government fiscal year is different than just thinking about it annually. Their fiscal year starts on October 1st through September 30th. That is their entire fiscal year. The bill that he's talking about that they passed is HR 8752, which they had already passed this bill in the House on June 28th, 2024. Within this bill, various federal departments are allocated funding. So in this case, with the disaster relief fund, they allocated over $22 billion that had passed the House. Now, remember that the majority in the House is Republicans. Now, the funny thing about all of this is that they're on the news saying that the Republicans are the ones that shot down the bill. Well, let's really take a look at that. So as you can see here on the roll call, you had 207 Republicans that voted yay, but you had 197 Democrats that said nay. So who really shot down the funding? I'm just asking. So now that we have established that the House actually did pass the appropriation bill for 2025, now it's left up to the Senate. And who rules the Senate? The Democrats. And who is president of this current Senate? Your Vice President, Kamala Harris. So who really needs to pass the bill and come back to Congress? Just asking. So you may ask, why are they doing this? And why did Mayorkas get on the news in the mainstream media and say that FEMA doesn't have enough funding to make it through this season? I'm going to tell you why. Because Trump showed up before any of the government showed up with supplies, food, oil, money, anything. And he was boots on the ground on September 30th. And the optics made them look bad. So now they got to spin the story because it's an election year. Now, while Trump was on the ground, this is what Biden had to say during this time on the same day, September 30th.
And the hurricane, Mr. President, why weren't you and Vice President Harris here in Washington commanding this weekend?
I was commanding. I was on the phone for at least 2 hours yesterday and the day before as well. I commanded. Called the telephone. Is it all my security?
Now, mind you, this is the government. They knew a whole week in advance that this hurricane was about to hit. And so did Mayorkas. And they knew that the House and the Congress was in session that last week of September because they passed the 9747 bill that also extended funding. Why didn't Mayorkas speak up then? So even before Mayorkas got on the mainstream media and claimed that FEMA didn't have enough money to make it through this season, they knew they had executive drawdown power. As Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson said, this means that by executive power, they can allocate funding immediately to the designated disaster areas. These disaster areas was declared after October 1st. Some before then, but mostly after October 1st, which means that you are now in a new fiscal year. So this $20 billion does apply to this disaster. But I find it funny on September 26th, he did an executive drawdown for Ukraine. President Biden has done over 55 executive drawdowns for funding allocated to Ukraine. This means that the funding can get to wherever it needs quickly, as I stated before. So instead of them focusing on the health and the disasters that were about to hit our nation and our country, they focused on foreign affairs. And then it came back to bite them because Trump showed up immediately after the disaster happened. So all you Democrats that are running out there and trying to bash us for speaking up and standing on the truth, this is what we mean that this administration puts Americans last. Y'all have a good day. Why is the
Let me stop it right there, okay? What else can you say? The sister said it all. I mean, she said it all, right? So I'm not going to add anything to what she said. You can go research this yourself. Listen, there's a lot of misinformation coming from one side or the other, but that's not the point. We're in a battle for ideology in the future. I mean, you don't have to like Trump, but the way that if you really think that anything is going to change if Kamala gets in, you're fooling yourself. So this is the thing that encourages me the most is to see more and more Black women understanding that we all have to get off the plantation. And the truth, when I say all, that means even if half of us get off the plantation, the Democrat plantation, we'll start demanding things from both parties and maybe even help develop a third party, because now we're independent thinkers. We don't have to be under the demonic cloak of the Democrats any longer. And I'm proud of some of the sisters coming out, and I'm more proud of the brothers who are saying, listen, you can't shame us into doing the shit you want us to do any longer. If you want something from us, you got to come correct. You got to give us something tangible, and you got to give it to us now before you get into office, not afterwards. Well, you know, this should be a nice moment for the Black community going forward, or whatever, the rebuilding of whatever community we have left, because we're near disaster. And another 4 years of the Democratic demonic hold on Black people is a little bit more than we can stand. Our pain, marriage, politics, and sports, over and out.